Hey everyone, Jonathan Barkan and Ted Hentschke here from DreadCentral.com, and we are here with our reactions from today's PC Gaming Showcase. There were a lot of things shown, and there's a lot to talk about. So Ted, why don't you go ahead, take the lead on this?
So I've done the PC Gaming Showcase every year, and I kind of love it. It's the weird bastard child of the showcases at E3. You always got the big three of the Sony and Microsoft and then Nintendo. Nintendo recently switched over to their, I think they call it the Nintendo Treehouse, where they just kind of reveal stuff online. Bigger developers have been getting in. I know Square Enix and Ubisoft have showcases that they're doing. We were just at the Bethesda showcase last night. You can check out our video for that. But the PC Gaming Showcase has always been this niche kind of indie scene. They got Day9 as a host, who's always adorable. He's a great host. And it's always like they got 1/10 the budget of everyone else, and things always go wrong technically if you're watching the stream. Things are going to go wrong. Like trailers are going to get cut short. Audio's not going to get cut in at the right time. But I love it just because you can really tell they're focusing on the games.
Yeah, there is a lot of attention specifically to the games, and because it's a PC gaming showcase and it's not something like Microsoft, they're not focusing on technology here. They're not focusing on hardware, although there was a brief spot where they revealed a new Samsung gaming monitor, which did look pretty cool, but it was a quick aside. The main focus here is on really interesting and innovative games that a lot of them were very unique and exciting. Some of them were the same old that we've seen for years and years. And some of them are throwbacks to kind of earlier titles from our childhoods. So overall, it's a very kind of interesting event to be at. As Ted said, there are some technical difficulties here and there that keep it interesting for different reasons. But you can tell they put a lot of heart into it. So there's fun to be had.
The thing is that it feels like a very gamer-focused showcase. They don't have a lot of the fanfare about this is why Xbox is the best versus PlayStation or something like that. It's just like, here are games that gamers might like. So we have
and it's a wide variety of games. That's the other thing, is it's not just trying to focus on sort of the big titles or the really fascinating ones or something that's really strange. It's a little bit of something for everyone.
There's a lot of indie stuff. So there's a lot of titles for us to talk about, so we're kind of just going to jump into it. First off, we're going to be going in order that they were revealed at the showcase. That's how I took my notes. Also, some of these they're just going to be our first impressions. We do have appointments with a lot of these studios later this week to check out their games. We'll give you our full breakdown then. Right now, these are just our first impressions based on what we saw. I
also want to say something real quick. I know that the pillow behind us says no cilantro ever. That is a blatant lie. Cilantro is amazing.
We're shooting this at our glorious host today's house, and he is against cilantro. I'll put his email description, address, height, weight, and all classifications in the video description below.
We already have carrier pigeons on the way.
Only if you hit smash that like and subscribe button.
I hate everything you just said.
Then you'll get access to all of his personal details, promise. Anyways, so we're just going to get started. First off, if you want deeper dives into what Coffee Stain Studios is bringing to the table with new Satisfactory content, if you want to know about Midnight Ghost Hunt and you want to know about Songs of Conquest, I have longer interviews with with members of those studios that you can find on this channel too. I'm sure they'll be linked in the description below. So go ahead and check that out if you're interested. We're going to be talking briefly about our reactions to that, but if you want a deeper dive, go check those out. So first off, the first game that they unveiled was Evil Genius 2.
Now, I know you're really excited about this. My first impression, first of all, I don't know the Evil Genius games, but my immediate reaction was that it reminded me of sort of The Incredibles meets a little bit of Austin Powers with a little bit of Saturday morning cartoons, kind of like Powerpuff Girls in terms of...
It's not a terrible way to describe it.
There's just a lot going on there, but it's really cute, and it looks fun.
So Evil Genius is a classic of an age where there's this certain kind of base building game. It reminds you a lot of Dungeon Keeper, for those fans of the old Dungeon Keeper games, and you kind of built your evil genius lair on this mountain and you trained up these minions. What we didn't see in this trailer was whether or not the henchmen are going to be returning. That was a big part, was the henchmen that you got to level up, give them special characters, trying to recruit new henchmen. We do see that there's 4 of the evil geniuses this time around, but I'm actually meeting with Rebellion later this week to talk to them more about Evil Genius 2, where I'll be asking them all these questions. But me personally, as a guy who still installs Evil Genius to this day to play it and check it out again. I'm so excited that they're coming out with a sequel.
Was this a really exciting moment when they opened up with this?
Yeah, I mean, I was like ridiculously excited for this. When so a bit of background here, I wasn't able to talk about this before because it was under embargo, but I knew the weeks leading up to the show that we were going to be seeing Evil Genius 2, and I was like, oh my god, they're making Evil Genius 2. I never thought this game would see the light of day.
When did the original come out?
Oh, like, I was in high school when it came out, so this is a long time ago.
So this is over a decade.
Yeah, this is over a decade.
So this is a long time coming.
Yeah, and it is cartoony, but it is that real, like, you do Evil Genius stuff in this. You do create traps, these elaborate traps, and then you can capture the agents sent to infiltrate you and kind of put them on the Bond-style laser that is gonna, you expect them to die rather than talk, and you try to get information from them. It's super fun.
Now, in true Austin Powers style, can you make sharks with frickin' laser beams attached to their head?
I will be sure to ask the lead developer, so be looking for that.
We will let you know
specifically if there are sharks with frickin' laser beams on their frickin' heads. But yeah, we'll get more information on that.
So what's next?
Next up is Vampire the Masquerade 2 trailer.
Okay, so I played Vampire the Masquerade, the first one, when it came out, and there's a lot to love about that game. It's incredibly in-depth. There's a lot of lore. There's a lot of story. That being said, for me at least, it was a very difficult game, and it felt like there were a lot of issues that plagued it, at least upon release.
Yeah, well, Vampire the Masquerade is notorious for Troika Games, the studio that was developing it at the time, ran out of money. And so there's a specific point in the game where the game kind of just ran out of money. And you start fighting zombies in corridors, and it's right when you get to Chinatown, and you can kind of see the wall where the money ended, and the game just kind of scrambles to finish. And it's been really breathed in new life with all these fan mods that have come along to flesh out the game. We could make an entire freaking video on Vampire the Masquerade, the original, and how it's just grown over the years through the modding community. But I'm so excited to see, first off, Hardsuit Labs, the guys that are making Vampire the Masquerade 2, is a lot of the original team members from Troika Games. So like the story writer in Vampire the Masquerade 2 worked on Vampire the Masquerade 1. So first off, this is a team that clearly cares. And secondly, with Paradox Interactive as the publisher, like Paradox is known for putting out quality content. And it might not necessarily be quality content that the quality content that you expect when it's first released. I know that what is the one that they just came out with? Imperator Rome? No, it wasn't Imperator Rome. It was their Rome one. But they do the Hearts of Iron games. They do the Crusader Kings games. All of these games are, when they first release, are beloved, but everyone's like, what I'm really waiting for is the DLC. They're still coming out with Crusader Kings 2 DLC.
Okay.
I mean, I think you can buy like either a car or all the Crusader Kings 2 DLC. And people love that these games get constantly supported. And the problem with the original Vampire is that they ran out of money and they couldn't get the support that they needed. So this, having the constant support, like, I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
And it does look really amazing. Like, There's a lot of mystery. There's a lot of intrigue. It does feel like some vampire-infested world, but this is not something along the lines of Daybreakers, where it's just kind of over the top and very glossy. If anything, it's the opposite. It feels very grimy. It feels like you have to remain hidden, and there's just a lot going on in this trailer. But for those who are into vampire lore, this seems like it's going to be right up your alley.
Yeah, and the cool thing to note too also is if you go and you watch the stream and you watch the trailer again, we do actually get to see some gameplay. So that was something that we didn't see before. We saw a lot of pre-rendered cinematics, but we do actually get to see some combat in this trailer. And it did this thing where it was you were fighting a guy and you had your stake, and then he went to lunge at you, and it switched to third person as you did a dodge move where you like switched into the shadows. So whenever you're doing something that's that cinematic, it's very hard to keep the flow, but I'm really excited to see what they do with it.
It'll be exciting. I mean, being a vampire, there's not much cooler than that.
Yeah.
So,
and if you're looking for more info on Vampire the Masquerade 2, you're not going to have to wait long. We have our appointment with them at noon tomorrow, so we'll have the information with you as soon as we...
By the end of the week?
Yeah, by the end of the week. So yeah, we're just going to move on because we do have a lot of games to cover, and we're going to have more Vampire coverage coming soon. But definitely check out the new trailer if you haven't yet. Next up, we have one of the games that I just want to talk about because it's so fun. Chivalry 2.
Okay. It's basically, I want to be really violent in a medieval battle.
Yeah, I mean, it's gory medieval battle simulator. and that's what Chivalry 1 was. And it's goofy and it's fun and it harkens back to those old days when you would download a Half-Life 2 mod that would have some weird rule set. Like I remember I played Pirates versus Vikings versus Knights, which was a game. Trust me, it was a game.
Clearly, those all make sense in the same.
And it was actually a lot of fun. And so you got these like janky games where they just focused on this weird mechanic that they could do, and they kind of just built this mod out of it. And it never reached the quality of a finished game. And I always felt with Chivalry, the original Chivalry, it was a great concept, and I really liked the combat engine, but it never reached the final game product.
There was no full potential that it really went
realized.
Towards.
And Mordhau has recently come out and has kind of run with that Chivalry idea. But, Mordhau has its own series of problems that this is not a Mordhau video, so I won't go into that. But with Chivalry 2, it looks like they're really focusing on refining that Chivalry combat and creating these. I think they said they have 52-player battles in this one.
It's going to be larger. You're also going to have horses.
Yeah, horses.
They're bringing those in.
And and one of the great things about Chivalry is you can get your arm cut off and still run around, so that'll be fun.
I mean, that makes total sense.
That makes total sense. I mean, it's just but a scratch.
But we did see a really fun moment where here are two people locked in battle, and suddenly one of them gets their arm cut off, and in a moment, there they are in a moment of shock. And that moment is all that is needed to cut off their head. Yeah, to cut off their head. Yeah, but they did have the developers come out after and talk about what to expect from the game, and it's not just going to be all serious combat now. Like they said that you can actually pick up a chicken and shove it down someone's throat to kill them. And so as one is wont to do in a medieval battle. And look, I love Splatterhouse, I love gore, I love violence, and any game that's going to allow me to deliver the maximum amount of violence with whatever implements, I'm on board. I think that's pretty much our entire audience. Yeah, that's our entire audience. Yeah. So I don't feel like it's too off base to talk about the medieval decapitation simulator. So anyways, the next one I want to talk about is a game called Mosaic. And it was this little indie title. Yeah. And it was, so it starts off with this ad for an app called Blip Blop, where you're just tapping this. It was like a pun. It's one of those tap games. You tap and you gain a whole bunch of something. Yeah, and so the thing is, though, is that this game, it looks like a dark, atmospheric adventure game, but this is by the same studio. This is Krillbite. They did Among the Sleep, which was the game where you played as the toddler. It was like the horror adventure game where you play as a toddler. And, I didn't feel like that game was fantastic, but I thought it was a really interesting concept that I was glad to see reach final game form, and I'm really interested to see what they do with this one. And I did love that in this trailer, they weren't at all afraid to kind of point a scathing finger at our cell phone culture. Yeah. Because there were posters everywhere that said something along the lines of, let this blow your mind. And it was just a person looking into their phone with a bright flash illuminating their face and their hair thrown back as if it's blood splatters. It looks like it's almost shooting you in the head. Yeah, and it's funny because you can actually really see their commitment to this game, because that app that they're talking about, Blip Blop, apparently you can download it. It's an actual app they made. Yeah, so that's, and I just love it when a game has enough energy and love for the concept that they're going for to go beyond, with the four walls of the screen of their game, and they go into other methods of trying to... I mean, realistically, a simple tapper is not too complicated, but it's the fact that they did something like that. They went above and beyond. They didn't need to create that, but they did. Yeah, and it's usually with these little tiny indie games like your Limbos and your Inside, which is the same studio, I know, but that you get these really memorable experiences. And there's a lot of them, so, not everyone's going to be a star, but seeing something like this always is it's you're gonna go try to find that next diamond, and maybe it's gonna be Mosaic, but who knows? We're gonna find out when it comes out. Next up, we had Midnight Ghost Hunt, which we're not going to talk too much about other than our initial reactions, because I do have the interview. But you want to talk about Midnight Ghost Hunt for a little bit? It's Ghostbusters meets that old Sega game Haunting. Do you remember that one? No, I don't. Okay, so the plot of Haunting was that you were a ghost inside a house, and people would move in, and your whole task was to haunt random items and try and scare the family so bad that they fled the house. And it had those cartoony style graphics where when you got them really good, they would jump up and their mouth would be enormous, their tongue would stick out, their eyes would bug out 12 feet. It was a very kind of cheeky game, and this is sort of the same experience. From what I understand, it's 4v4, so there are going to be 4 spirits. There's going to be 4 Ghostbusters, although they're not actually Ghostbusters for lawsuit's sake. But the whole idea is that here,
they call themselves the Ghost Facers in this game.
Yes, it's the subtle difference.
Yeah.
They went from name brand to store brand.
Yeah.
But here, what makes it exciting is that. You think in Gary's mod you can become a prop and run around, but you can't do anything else. This is the opposite. You can become the prop, you can run around, and you can actually attack the Ghost Facers. So you will see there in the cinematic that you become a chair and you can just fly towards them to actually damage them. Because it's the battle between the supernatural and humans, and one has to win.
Yeah, and the thing about Midnight Ghost Hunter is that... Midnight Ghost Hunt is that it's actually kind of an evolution of this prop hide game that was a Gary's mod, like Half-Life 2 mod that kind of just blew up online because it was so goofy.
Yeah.
And when talking to the developer about it, he was saying that goofiness is like a lot of the reason that he loved it, and so that goofiness is still going to be here. You start off with a bunch of ghost hunters, and your goal is to try to figure out which object these ghosts are inhabiting, so a lot of things are going to get broken in the process, and it's going to be this silly kind of ragdoll game until it's not. It's
going to be very much like that scene in Ghostbusters where they go to the hotel and they cause horrific amounts of damage in the ballroom, but hey, guess what? That's kind of what you need to do in order to catch Slimer.
Yeah, and then, midnight rolls around, it's 4 minutes into the game, these matches are going to be real quick, and then the ghosts are going to turn red and they're going to go into kill mode, and that's when it becomes more of a horror game. The lights go out, you have to turn your flashlight on, and you kind of just, they were saying that some of the strategies is that you can try to barricade yourself in a room and cover it with furniture and then try to point all your guns towards the door, but that's going to be really interesting to see how this gameplay all...
But what I love about this is that they said it's 4 minutes into a match and the clock will strike midnight. That tells me that this is going to be extremely fast-paced.
Yeah, fast-paced.
And that's the purpose, because remember in Gary's mod, the whole idea is that you as a prop, you need to hide. In Midnight Ghost Hunt, it's the opposite. You become a prop to cause damage. So it's a constant battle throughout this house, and there's going to be a lot of destruction, but that's because the ghosts are jumping from one item to another to another, and it's incredibly quick. You can jump into a chair, and then in the very next second, you can jump to a painting, and then a second later, you jump into a suit of armor with a sword. There is it looks like there are no limitations on what you jump through.
There's a little bit of limitation in terms of how long it takes you to reorient yourself, but and then when you do jump, it shimmers, so it does give the ghost hunter a note. So it's not impossible to find the ghosts, but it's very fast-paced. And
so there might even be matches where the clock never strikes midnight.
Yeah.
Because you're just going and bing, bang, boom, the match is over.
Yeah, and there's some details about it that you can find in my interview that I'm just going to briefly mention, but there's actually 3 different kinds of ghosts you can play. One of them can clone themselves into one of the hunters, so you kind of have to spy check them. If you know the Team Fortress 2, the spy check. There's a ghost that can do telekinesis, so they're going to have more variety than just hiding in objects, but that's going to be the main
Now,
drive.
do the Ghost Facers have their own individual little abilities?
Well, you get equipment, so you can get a grenade, you can get infrared, things like that, but you can only bring one with you, so you're going to have to choose your loadout.
So you have to divvy it up amongst the people that you're playing with.
Yeah, which is always great in online games, trying to divvy out the best equipment. That's always a lovely experience. But just another quick aside, watch my full interview if you want to know all the details, but Midnight Ghost Hunt is going to be they did promise that all the progression is everything useful is going to be unlocked at the start. All progression is going to be cosmetic, so I think it's going to be a cool little indie game.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It might very well become the next big, hey, are you up? Let's knock out a few rounds.
Yeah, and you know what? Dive deeper into my interview if you want to know about Coffee Stain Studios, because Coffee Stain is publishing this. Coffee Stain Studios is known for Satisfactory. It's most recently known for the Goat Simulator franchise. Goat Simulator made so much money. I talked to the PR manager at Coffee Stain, did an interview with him, that they now have the chance to support these small little indie devs.
And I think that's the most exciting thing, because they could have turned around and just put it into themselves, but rather they're taking a chance with other developers and giving them the platform that they have built up.
What they said was that they made so much money off of it that they couldn't keep it all internally, that they had to start publishing. And so really, all the people out there that bought Goat Simulator, you're the heroes. You're the heroes for supporting the indie gaming industry. So
thank you for licking and headbutting your way across whatever town that was.
Buy Ghost Simulator for charity. That's what we're saying. Make dreams happen with Ghost Simulator. Okay, so we're going to move on. Next up, we had Unexplored 2, The Wayfarer's Legacy. So if you played Unexplored 1, it's a roguelite exploration game. This one looks like that just scaled up a lot. You play as an adventurer that's going along these paths, and then you die and you restart and you go along a completely different path. But there's so much unexplored to explore. And, I don't really want to talk about this game for very long because I haven't gotten a chance. I'm not going to really get a chance to play it at this E3. But there was this scene where he was swimming through this lake or skipping across this lake, and there was this like sunken behemoth. And it just reminded me of a lot of these other indie games that I've loved with this greater world. Something like Titan Souls, even with Shadow of the Colossus, it's like you're in this giant dead world just waiting to explore and uncover things. And I always love to see what monster lurks behind the next button press. Am I going to revive that Titan and have to fight it? And I don't know, that one, I love those style of games.
I will say what I really liked about this game was something that you mentioned briefly before, was that if you follow a path and you die, then you're going to want to follow another path. And it reminds me actually of a video that a friend of mine shot and released on YouTube. His name's Ragnar Rocks. And the video is all about that game Gothic 2. I don't know if you remember that one. I love that game. I have a lot of passion for that game. But it did something really fantastic, was that it put you in this open world, and it just put very difficult enemies at specific points, so you naturally learned to go in certain places, and then as you became more powerful, then you could go back and revisit those places that were prior closed off, and you can then explore them. So it seems like this might follow that same mentality. Yes, it's a roguelike, but hey, if you get stronger on a certain path, you can come back and go down those other paths that were previously too difficult, which is always great for giving you that sense of accomplishment.
Oh God, don't get me started on Gothic. I was just talking to someone about Gothic the other day. Tune back in for our 47-part video series on the Gothic franchise, and then the Risen franchise, which then becomes Elix. The one guy out there that got that reference, this video series is going to be for you. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what this game shapes up to be. So next up we have the Mutant Year Zero DLC, Seed of Evil. So Mutant Year Zero is a game that I really liked. Funcom tactics game that's like XCOM. So grid-based, and what I really liked about Mutant Year Zero is that there's a much heavier emphasis on stealth. Now, I know that you haven't played Mutant Year Zero yet, so I'm just going to nerd out for a second here. Mutant Year Zero, I never got a chance to review it. I'll probably get a chance to review it as a package with Seeds of Evil. What it does is it simplifies the dice. So in XCOM, you can have like a 85% chance to hit something, or in 73, and you're not really sure exactly what's causing those numbers to come up. In Mutant Year Zero, it's very, very clear-cut. You have 100%, a 75%, a 50%, a 25%. It's based on the dice that they did in the RPG game that it's based off of. It's a different setting. Instead of playing as super soldiers like in XCOM, or I guess like regular soldiers in XCOM, you're playing as mutants. So you got like a pig man, you got a little fox person, but you're basically playing as the monsters, fighting against what are basically humans that have lost their minds.
Now, was this the one where in the trailer it was a moose?
Yeah, this is the moose one. I think the moose's name was Khan. I should do more research on this. But the Seeds of Evil expansion is coming out. First off,
all of this can be put aside. You get to play a moose.
Moose person, yeah.
In a trench coat, shooting a bunch of things, and it is quite splatterific if I remember the trailer.
Oh yeah, and so this game was great. The characters, like one of them's like a flying, it's a duck, but he doesn't have like duck wings. He has bat wings because he's a mutant, and he has a top hat, and he
makes total sense.
He's a sniper.
So it's Darkwing Duck.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
And so you get all this like diverse cast of mutant characters, and this one brings the moose, but it brings this like plague infestation element. The original Mutant Year Zero, which just came out last year, was already a pretty dark tonal game. Like you're fighting cannibals. There's a lot of it's a really interesting storyline. World in decay. These basically mutants are the last remnants of humanity because all the regular not all of them. There's like the Ark, which is like still regular humans, but most of humanity has devolved into this animal state that's even more animal than you. And there was like a lot of hints at a larger world, and seeing them expand it with this is going to be really cool.
It does look fun.
Yeah,
I mean, again, it's a moose killing things. I'm 100% on board.
You got. I wonder what his superpowers are.
I'm not 50%. I'm not 75%. I'm 100% on board.
Yeah, he got close enough that the dice roll was 100%, which is something that XCOM never had. I will never forgive you for my 95% shotgun chance to hit at point blank range and then watching it go through their face for no hits. So take some notes, 2K games. And okay, so next up we had Moons of Madness, which was a trailer that I'm going to have more information for you about soon because we have an appointment to check out Moons of Madness later this week.
We didn't get to see a lot in that trailer, but what we did get to see was really atmospheric. It looked very creepy. This was basically... it almost looked like the Nostromo from Alien, just as a moon base.
Well, yeah, and it was like covered in tentacles. Like from the description of the game, it's going to be a Lovecraftian space horror game.
Which, I mean,
that's good.
That's our bread and butter.
I'm sold. Like you don't really need to give me more details than that, but you know, it looks like kind of what Dead Space looked like before it became a Phil Collins advertisement. And yeah. I haven't forgotten about Dead Space 3. Everyone else has, but I haven't. And but I really like this idea of space and decay. Like space is already such a hostile atmosphere and environment that when you then add Lovecraftian horror to it, it just this is like helmet spacesuit kind of like space world. This isn't like some colony where you can just take your helmet off and be fine. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing what it is. I really wish I had more info on it. The trailer looked really cool.
We'll have more info soon.
Yeah, I love Lovecraftian horror. It's just they didn't have any developers come on stage and talk about it. And I was like, oh, Moons of Madness, I'm seeing that later this week. Let's hear more about it now. And then it was just a trailer and it was done. And I was like, I want more.
And that trailer was part of a greater
series
of trailers.
Yeah, it was like part of their quick cut trailers.
It's kind of like what we described in the Microsoft Xbox showcase, where you're going to show 60 films, but 60 games, but you can't do all games individually. So throw about 25, 30 of them into one quick 5-minute trailer, and this was the same thing.
Yeah.
You had multiple games in a short period of time.
Yeah, but I will be back with more info on Moons of Madness as soon as I can. The next up is Last Oasis, which it was... Okay. So Last Oasis is a game that looks like kind of like Mad Max when like the inevitable future of Mad Max when everyone even runs out of gas. You know?
Yeah.
So it's like you're on this ship, this like basically sand boat that had like legs and sails.
It looked very Da Vinci. Like these were the Da Vinci machinations that you look at the old Da Vinci helicopter where it was like a paper wheel but not really, and you just look at it like this could never have worked. And it seems like they took a lot of inspiration from those drawings and those designs in this world.
But yeah, you always have the Mad Max tribe that doesn't have access to the bullets from the bullet farm or gas from Gastown, and they just have their like crossbows and stuff.
They don't have the gasoline.
Yeah, they don't have the gasoline. So this seemed like an entire game about those factions of people that like after the apocalypse, and they're trying to find the last oasis. So it's like a sand game, and I'm not sure.
So it's Waterworld. Instead of trying to find dry land, they're trying to find wet water.
Wet water, yeah. So I don't believe that's how they want to sell their game. But
I think everyone should want to try and sell their game like that. I'm one of the few people out there that will die hard on the hill that Waterworld is pretty fucking sweet.
Yeah, it's a movie for sure. I would agree that it is a movie.
All right, anyways, he agrees with me.
It's a movie.
Yep.
And but anyways, Last Oasis, we saw some pretty cool monsters. We saw some fights between these savage tribes, and any kind of like we have had a lot of takes on the survival genre so far.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is going to be a multiplayer game. I don't know if you're going to control the group, if you're going to just be part of the group. I'm interested to find out. I'll reach out to the studio and try to find out more information. But I really like this idea of a survival game where you are working in this tribe that has this really unique vehicle, an interesting way to interact with the world rather than just walking around and running and trying to find the next iron deposit or whatever. Is you have
Yeah.
this living kind of this land boat that you're running around on, and I just think it looked really cool.
It's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely game to try it.
Yeah. Next up, we had Zombie Army 4 from Rebellion as well.
It's a sniper game, but here they've actually expanded, and now there's just so much more that you can do with it. I mean, for those who remember the sniper games, you shoot and then you get that X-ray cinematic where the skull explodes or the testicles explode. Or
Well, let me correct you real quick. I don't believe they're using the Sniper Elite title anymore. I think it's just called Zombie Army 4.
But they definitely had that element.
They had a
We even
sniper.
saw it
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
trailer where the skull suddenly revealed itself and exploded. But maybe not the same title, but it had that feel.
Straight up, if you have that tech on hand, you're not going to not use it. You're
Yes.
going to use the sniper exploding the head. You're going to have the nut shots where the balls explode. Hopefully they'll have fun zombie-related ones where like you shoot them in the heart, but then you find out there's no heart there. That'll all be fun.
Yeah.
And but there is like a certain amount that this game is we only saw one sniper of the team of 4.
Yep.
One of them was like manning this giant minigun.
There was one setting traps.
Yeah.
Whether it was electric grenades
Yeah.
or creating an electric fence.
Yeah.
So here it seems interesting because not only can you set traps, but you can use the environment itself to become a deadly way to dispatch your enemies.
Yeah, and here's the thing: is that none of this is going to sound terribly new for fans of the Zombie Army franchise, but I've really been impressed with Rebellion's evolution of their Sniper Elite games. I mean, you look at Sniper Elite 1 through 3, pretty much linear shooters, and then you get Sniper Elite 4, and it's like the best Hitman game out there. You get dropped into this zone, this huge open world, you have all these diverse objectives. I think I spent like 6 hours in just the first level of Sniper Elite 4. I really like that game. So to see that evolution of the studio, I really want to see what they're doing with Zombie Army 4. Plus, it ended with a giant picture of Zombie Hitler, and I'm just like, fine, that's good.
That's all that we need.
Yeah, we just need to kill Zombie Hitler. I mean, we've already killed Hitler a billion times in this. I don't know if you know this, but in every Sniper Elite game, they have a DLC level to kill Hitler. It's in every
as one should. If you have the technology to create an X-ray of a head exploding, then you should obviously create a level where you can use that on Hitler.
Yeah, and if you shoot him in the balls, he only has one. And it gets even better. So there's in Sniper Elite, I believe it was 3. They had a mission to kill him, but he had clone decoys, and one of the ways you can figure out which ones are the decoys is to shoot him in the nuts, and they'd have 2. I'm like dead serious. This is the game that we were talking about. This is the studio that we're talking about. And like, if you have to differentiate regular Hitler from body double Hitler by the number of balls, I will buy your games.
I mean, it's
fine.
Only Rebellion would have the balls, Nash, to do something like that.
Yeah. So that was, and here's the thing: is that we're not going to have to be talking much more about Zombie Army 4 right now because we have an appointment with Rebellion to talk about later this week. So we'll be having more information coming up. But I'll definitely be asking how many balls Zombie Hitler has.
It's a very relevant question, and it's a perfectly
gameplay relevant. I need to know if they get that right. It's their authenticity, really. That's
of course,
brought me back
historical accuracy.
Yeah. Next up, we have a game that I thought looked friggin' great. Was Remnant from the Ashes. It is.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Gosh, how do we describe this? It's Dark Souls with guns, kind of. It's these giant bosses. The world has fallen into decay. These giant monsters are everywhere.
It's a very post-apocalyptic, but very hellish landscape.
Well, it's from the creators of Darksiders. Well, this is what's the name of the studios? I did write it down. Gunfire Games. They made Darksiders 3 and the Darksiders 2, the definitive edition. I hate saying that. But they've worked on the Darksiders franchise before. I wasn't a huge fan of Darksiders 3, but that's a whole different discussion. But this is definitely, like, you can see that influence. Hell has come to Earth. There's all these otherworldly creatures. But instead of playing Death or War or I think Fury was the most recent one, you play as just a guy with guns.
But what's cool is that it's also a co-op game.
Yeah.
And you can jump in and out at will. So there's no need to have a co-op campaign and a solo campaign.
Well, from what I understand, from what the guy was talking about after the developer came out and talked a little bit about the game, is that first off, co-op is going to be drop in, drop out, but also people's worlds are going to be different. So this is, we didn't get to see if there's going to be any trash mobs in the game. I don't know if this is a boss rush game or not, But apparently, like, you might have one city where the dragon is in that version of the city, and someone else might have it where it's like the juggernaut in that version of the city. And each of them is going to have different loot that they're going to drop. All the loot's going to be like legendary. They're not going to have trash items. They're going to have legendary drops based on whatever quest you're doing or whatever boss you're killing. So like each weapon that you get or a piece of equipment is going to be like unique to that quest line or that boss. And different quest lines and bosses are going to spawn in different people's playthroughs. I don't know if it's going to be a consequence thing or if it's just going to be at random. I think it's going to be slightly at random because he did say like you can drop into other people's worlds and see what happened in theirs. So that's going to just add like so much replayability to it.
But even the visual presentation of it, you could tell that they were highly inspired by From Software and Dark Souls and all of their games. And you could see that this was a game where you need to do a lot of ducking and rolling to avoid an attack. You're going to be doing a lot of attacks that will chip away at the health.
Yeah.
And it's going to be an elongated battle. You're in it for a while, so buckle down.
Yeah, I've always thought that it would be good if they could figure out how to do like Dark Souls combat with ranged combat. So far, we've only ever gotten Immortal Unchained. The one guy that understands that reference, it was like a very, very under the radar.
You really enjoy putting out references to that one guy.
Yeah, that one guy really loves my videos. He's like, an Immortal Unchained reference, this video is perfect. I'm pretty sure I'm the only person that's ever played that game. But that was like a Dark Souls style gunplay combat game. And it existed. And this one looks like it's really polished though. The dodging looks real great. Which is going to be key for any Dark Souls style game is how good the invulnerability frames are. And it seems like, I don't know, I'm really excited to see where this one goes.
It looks fun. If you're into that kind of punishing gameplay, that punishing combat, then this is certainly going to be for you. But, we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, and this is one of the ones where I was kind of surprised by the announcement at last minute. And I think I have an appointment with them, but I still haven't received.
Just about to ask. We'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
So we may or may not have more information on this. Tune in to find out.
Yeah, tune in to find out what I scheduled for myself for E3. Next up, we have. Just one I want to talk about real quick. Song of Conquest. That's one of the ones I did a video on, and it's a callback to Heroes of Might and Magic 2 and 3. If you're a fan of those games, you'll love it. If you don't know what those are, they are these city building / fantasy adventure games. And really the takeaway is that there's all these different teams and all of them build their empires, but you can build an empire of like undead. You can have your empire be built up of lizard people, all these different things. So it's like you have monsters in these games, but they don't see themselves as the monsters. But of course everyone else does.
Oh, of course.
I always just find that super interesting.
Now, is this also built in a medieval type world where you have your elves and your paladins and your clerics?
Yeah, so he was saying, when I was talking to the developer about it, he was saying that, so the trailer we actually see, if you do watch it, you'll be like, this looks much like Heroes of Might and Magic 2.
Yes.
But I got some behind the scenes time with the developer, and he said, we're going to be having a variety of different teams that are thematically different, but they're going to be more substantial differences to how the teams play. We're going to have dragons, monsters of all kind. But one of the things I'm really interested about, and this is specifically a Dread Central thing, is that they have this night system where the night gets darker and darker, and you see it in the trailer where this wizard comes on and like casts a night spell for it to be nighttime. And he said that there's a day and night cycle, but like different things happen at night. So if you have an army of vampires, they might be stronger at night. But there are global spells that you can cast to make the world a darker and darker place. And I'll be interested to see how that all plays out in the end.
It's anytime you have a game where the night has a serious effect on the gameplay itself, it immediately kind of fits right into my aesthetic.
Yeah, I really like those. Well, and personally, as like a strategy game lover myself, I'm not a huge fan of random chance. I'm really a big fan of games where you actually get to dictate the battle, and there's like a number of effects that happen, but I'm not a fan of rolling some dice and losing. What I am a fan, though, is losing because I fucked up. Yeah. And so to have a game with all these multiple variables is like really nice.
No wonder you love the From Software games.
Yeah, I really do. I love those so much. Next up, we have Vermintide 2. God, I'm really excited to talk about this one.
Yes. So it's rats versus humans. I think, what did my tweet say? It was something along the lines of rats, poison clouds, blunderbusses. Oh my.
Oh, Vermintide 2 has been out for a while now, so we just got announcement of the versus mode. And oh my god, for so long, people have been calling Vermintide Left 4 Dead with rats. And I said, yeah, well, it's not, because it's not. I mean, it is.
You know, you want to know what's interesting is the people that call it Left 4 Dead with rats. Do you know who they are? They're you. You literally say that all the time.
I think I did say. I think I called my review like Left for Rats or something like that. Yep. But it is what people say online. And but there's like a really significant difference between the games and the focus on combat. But one of the big things is that Left 4 Dead has always had the versus mode where you get to play as the zombies, and Vermintide did not. And we finally get a mode where you get to play as the rats. And I'll be really interested to see how they do it, because a lot of the way that they designed the special rats in Vermintide was specifically to be controlled by AI. The Ratling gun is a ranged shooter that only focuses on one target. So how are you going to do that in a multiplayer setting where someone's controlling the Ratling gunner? Are they just going to have certain rats not be controllable? I'm also interested to see if you get to play as the Chaos Champions and all the stuff they added in Vermintide 2. But like, this edition of the versus mode is like the icing on the cake of what I needed to declare Vermintide the new like champion of this 4-player horde mode game type. I thought Vermintide 2 mechanically was better than Left 4 Dead. I mean, Left 4 Dead's an old game, it's not, but it's been sitting at the top of the series franchise for a really long time, this style of game for a really long time. And Vermintide 2, I was always like, this is great. I love the complexity of the levels, I love all the secrets, I love everything. But if I just had some kind of versus mode where I got to like mess with other players, I'd love it even more. And now we have that. And fans of the franchise are just gonna like, they must be over the moon right now.
Well, of course. I mean, if this is something that they've been wanting for a long time, and now they're finally getting it, this is a glorious moment.
And I just love that Fat Shark has done so well with the series that they can still continue to update. Vermintide 1 got releases and DLC up to the release of Vermintide 2, and I love a game studio with that kind of love and that kind of work ethic. So to see Vermintide 2 not just get new levels, but get an entire new game mode is great, and I'm just really happy about it. I'm giddy like a little rat.
Well, okay, giddy like a little rat.
Yeah, the Skaven get excited about killing each other. The Skaven specifically, lore-wise. I'm a Skaven at heart, which is why I'm so excited about being able to fuck over all my friends. That one guy. He's really excited about this video right now. It's got everything.
You're a Skaven? I'm a Skaven too.
Skaven too. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, next up we have the one I'm actually gonna save that one for the end because I think it's the one we're both most excited about. So we're gonna talk about Maneater right now. The shark.
Okay. Maneater just looks like an obscene amount of fun. At least the trailer that they put out was embodied with this kind of humorous attitude. The point of the game is that you're a shark and you just go around killing and eating things. That being said, as you kill and eat more, you can then unlock upgrades and abilities. They even said that you can grow, you can expand. They even said that you can get metal teeth so that you can then start biting through boats. But then you've got this character that they showed who is supposedly like the Quint from Jaws. He is a shark hunter, and here he is belting out, what was it, Mississippi Queen?
Yeah, Mississippi Queen.
And it was just fun. Everything about that trailer put a smile on my face because they knew exactly what it was.
Yeah.
You're a shark, you're eating people, there's explosions of blood, and here's a guy who's going to come after you who, at least from the video, he may be the best shark hunter, but he's a bit of a klutz. He's a bit of a dolt.
Yeah. And let's not forget that this game is... There was a Jaws game, and it was...
On the Nintendo,
No, there was a more recent one. I think it was like Jaws Unleashed. I can't remember the subtitle was.
Was Jaws that on PS2?
Jaws
PS3?
Unchained. It's PS2.
Okay, yeah.
And it was a game.
That came and went.
It existed.
Yep.
And and I've always thought like there are some really great ideas out there for shark games. We had Depth, which was fucking awesome. If you haven't played Depth, it's a Divers versus Sharks game.
Yes, I know the one you're talking about.
It's super fun. I don't think it's still receiving updates, but it was really fun while it lasted. And
even though it wasn't sharks, you had Echo the Dolphin.
You should have Echo the Dolphin. But this is when you say, okay, you grow as a shark, you think of that like Flash game Grow, where you're like a little fish and you eat the bigger fish, you get bigger and bigger and bigger. But that's not what they're doing here. They said this is more like Grand Theft Auto with a shark, is what the developers came out and said. It's Grand Theft Auto with a shark.
I mean, that's everything I need.
That's all I want.
That's all I want.
Grand Theft Auto with a shark, and you just I don't know if I'll be able to buy the Shark Club with my shark points so that I can then master the Shark Coke Empire or anything like that, or rob some shark banks. I don't know, but this is
that's the DLC, the Shark Coke Empire.
The Shark Coke Empire, yeah. And the people behind it, the development studio is Tripwire, who did the Killing Floor series. Yeah. And I really enjoyed the Killing Floor 2. I also enjoyed Killing Floor 1 in that kind of way that I have mentioned before, that I enjoyed janky Half-Life mods. And so it's just cool to see them branching out from the Killing Floor name into... And by the way, Tripwire is also working with Torn Banner on Chivalry 2. So this is one of 2 games that they were revealing during the conference.
And they're both just bloody, gory,
bloody,
violent.
gory good time.
You're just meant to have a good time.
I mean, with Killing Floor, they put their kind of cards on the table with the level of violence that they want in their games. So I think that they're maintaining that. And
bless them for that.
That is one that I actually do know I have an appointment for later this week. So I'll be back with more Maneater.
You'll be back with some more bite-sized news.
Bite-sized chunks of, hopefully I'll get below the surface.
I can actually hear people groaning from that pun already.
Yeah. But yeah, next up we have Baldur's Gate 3. I'm stoked. It's made by Larian Studios, the guys that did Divinity. Divinity and Divinity 2 are great games. Really player-focused games, story-focused games. There's so much variety, so many things you can do, so many possibilities. I mean, it's one of those games where you can put like a scroll of teleportation in someone's pocket, and then when that NPC travels to a different town, you can pop it in their pocket, and you can use that to complete a quest as a totally viable option to do that. There's just so much in these games, and it lets you discover these janky solutions, and to bring that into like the D&D.
See, you say janky, but the way you're describing it, I think that's actually brilliant, because it's so out of left field, but it works.
Yeah, and that's has been their design philosophy, was to give people a tool set to play around with, but also make it work within their game. And I have no idea how they do it, because so many developers just like cry at the thought of having to do something like that. I mean, this is a game where you can just like go into combat mode and kill a shopkeeper, and the game has to figure out how to keep going, and it does. Yep. And to see that in the D&D world with Baldur's Gate is going to be so freaking cool. I mean, in the trailer we see a guy turning into a mind flayer, and I like dudes turning into squid monsters. It's freaking great.
And that is a definite callback to our love of Lovecraft.
Lovecraft, yeah. And well, the Mind Flayer is like a landmark monster in the Dungeons and Dragons universe. So that one guy is just really enjoying this video. I swear to God, he's like
just cheering and clapping the whole way through.
Yeah, but I'm just really excited. I really want to see what Larian does with Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate is a beloved franchise, old school franchise. Baldur's Gate 2, I think, came out in the 90s, so it's been a long time since anyone's seen an installment.
Yeah.
And so to see them bring back this beloved franchise with such a talented studio, I'm stoked on it.
It's been a long time coming. I mean, this was the kind of game that my friends and I absolutely loved when it first came out. Now, I haven't revisited it since then, so my mind is definitely very fuzzy and blurry with years and years of horror movies and other video games. But the fact that it's been this long and we're finally getting a Baldur's Gate 3, I think is a testament to the staying power and the love and appreciation for a game that still has fans to this day.
Yeah, I mean, just hopefully the next game they'll do is Planescape Torment 2, because I know a zillion people are waiting for that one to come out.
That one guy is cheering at the top of his lungs right now.
More people know about Planescape Torment. I at least have 2 viewers now. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was the game that kind of came out of nowhere. I had no
Yes.
idea what this was. I actually checked my email after, and all of the emails I had about it were in Spanish, because sometimes they think I'm a South American reporter. I don't know why. But it's one
Makes
called
sense.
Valferis.
All right. Yes.
Yeah.
To Valferis.
It was just like, it just started off, and this like ship crashes into bloody corpses, and this dude comes out, and he just like got like 2 machine guns. And
Now,
it was like
keep in mind that how he's describing it, don't think in 3D. Think of old
2D.
school Contra, Metal Slug,
Yes.
the side-scrolling, but it does look like it has a little bit of Metroidvania, where there is platforming that you can go up, but then again, that might be just like that one Contra level, where the whole point is that you don't go left to right, you just keep climbing up the different platforms. But it's just pure chaos. You can get into mech suits, you can get into vehicles, you can spray bullets everywhere, there's gore and viscera, there's explosions. It just looks like a ton of fun.
Yeah, and the thing that I noticed also is that like you switch between these ranged combat and this melee combat to do like melee strikes, but never in the entire trailer did I see him stop fighting.
Yeah,
it's like the one point he stops to do like a metal solo, and I was like, fine, you can. That's when you. Can stop.
That's totally okay. I will allow that.
And I was like, this is what I want from a 2D side-scrolling action game: is non-stop action. And it's funny because as I was watching the trailer, I was like, this kind of reminds me of like Slain Back from Hell. And when I was finished, I looked it up. It's the same developer as Slain Back from Hell, which was a metal themed side-scrolling action game, Metroidvania kind of game. And that game, as a bit of backstory, when it first came out, was not terribly good. People didn't really like it, and then the developer said, sorry, and went back and he finished the damn game. So it was originally just Slain, and then it was Slain Back from Hell, re-released it, and didn't re-release it as like a new game where you had to buy it. It was like everyone that had bought the original just got Slain Back from Hell, and it was totally revamped, highly improved. So this is a developer that's really shown that he cares about improving his game. And I love, like I said, I love that kind of design mentality.
And as you were saying, the combat just never lets up, but there's a mix of long range and close range combat. So in a weird way, another game that I think has a similar mentality, it's Doom 2016.
Yeah.
It's just you're going to be running and gunning, you're going to be getting up close to do a lot of damage, and this is the same kind of thing, only it's a 2D side-scroller.
Yeah, it's a bloodier, more violent Contra, and that should...
I think if you're not already hyped by that description, then there's little we can do. We highly recommend watch the trailer.
Yeah, watch the trailer.
Crank your speakers because the sound, I think, will really amplify it.
Sell it.
This is easily, in my opinion, I think this is the winner of the PC Gaming Showcase.
I was totally surprised by it, and I'm sold.
And you think, like, of all the things that we saw here, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, you've got Baldur's Gate 3, you've got Remnants, you've got all of these different games that are very high profile and people are very excited, and then along comes Valferis, and everyone is kind of like, what is this? But then it started, and the entire Gaming Showcase audience, you could tell they were 100% into it. They lit up, the energy was explosive, people just had a great time.
I think I texted him and I was just like, "Oh shit, it looks so good." That was just my genuine reaction to it. Anyways, that's all the games that we saw at the PC Gaming Showcase. We saw a lot of really cool stuff. Overall impressions of the show.
Overall impressions, I think there were a lot of really great titles. I think that there were some very interesting moments. The kind of technical difficulties made it a more charming, is the word I think I'll use, experience. But overall, I would say that and here's the thing, we didn't talk about all of the games that were there. We didn't talk about auto chess. We didn't talk about
Shenmue 3.
Shenmue 3, exactly. Yeah. These were games that just, don't really apply in this situation. But they really ran the gamut of the different kinds of games that are being offered on PC, which I thought was really exciting and very fun. And again, you've got games that look absolutely stunning, and then you've got Valferis, which is kind of pixel side-scrolling madness. And there was another game that Genesis Noir, I think it was called, it was basically all in black with yellow lines that created the shapes, and it looked very interesting, very unique. It was very surreal, very cerebral. But I think that's what makes PC gaming stand out. Whereas with console games, you can get a little bit weird, but even when you get weird, it still feels a little normal. In PC, they're just like, let's go crazy. We don't care. We're just gonna give something a shot.
Yeah, my overall impression of the PC gaming showcase is that it's one that I like to hit every year, and it's the smallest of the showcases. Like I said, not only with budget but also with attendance. And it's so funny that it's considered to be like a niche market, despite the fact that PC gaming is so wide and so diverse.
It's king.
Yeah, and so I always like to go see because it is, like you said, gamer focused. It's an unfocused mess of a show, and I love it.
Yeah.
The audio will cut out wrong. They will have these horrible, cringy jokes that do not land, but it's genuine. It lacks that corporate polish that just makes so many of these big press events seem disingenuous. I mean,
the best way to describe it is when you go to the Xbox showcase, you can tell that they've run through it 2, 3, 4 times. They've really nailed down everything that is going to happen. They're going beat by beat.
Yeah.
Then you get to the PC gaming showcase, and it's like, do we need to do a rehearsal? Nah.
I think they just rely on Day 9 being adorable the entire time, and he does a great job. And it's also like 2 hours long. It's the longest of the showcases too. And so you just get to see a lot of weird stuff. And I would definitely say if you have the chance to check out the stream, I have no idea how it turned out. Being there is a weird experience. I love it despite the fact that it's janky as hell. And I really just hope it keeps getting bigger. This is the most polished the show's ever been.
If this is the most polished the show has ever been, then the past several years must have been very interesting.
It used to be, back when I covered this with different people, it used to be the showcase that I would send someone to if it was like their first E3. So, because it was like, it's so weird and janky, and I went to my first one like 3-4 years ago, and I was like, this is so janky. And then it has been getting better and better. I used to watch them, and I was always excited to see the new titles, but it was always something I pressed off on the newbie. But now it's something that I want to do myself because it's such a weird experience.
It's got its own level of charm.
Yeah.
It's the Twin Peaks of the showcases.
It is 100% the Twin Peaks of the showcases. And I had a good time. Like I said, there's a lot of titles that we're not talking about. So and then the ones that we did have to run short on is just because we're seeing them later in the showcase.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll bring more news to you then.
I mean, Ted's going to be doing a ton of interviews over the next several days. We're going to be uploading them regularly. You're going to see a lot of content, and I think that it's going to be a really interesting E3.
It's going to be a tight show. So
even
without Sony here, I think we got a lot of titles to cover. So
yes.
With that, thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions about any of the games, if there's anything you want to see in the future with these titles, go ahead and leave a comment, and I'll reach out to the company and see what we can do.
Yep, or hit us up on Twitter at Jonathan Barkan, at Hentschke.
I still have a Twitter.
You do still have a Twitter. You've got to get on that.
Got to get on.
So, anyways, again, I'm Jonathan Barkan. Ted Hentschke. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.
See you in the next video.